Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to talk a little bit about licensing the brand, which is essentially the trademarks of your nonprofit organization. And this might sound weird or confusing, or why would you do that? And the number one reason why I wanted to do a video on this is that licensing intellectual property as a nonprofit organization is, in my opinion, the most commonly overlooked revenue stream for a nonprofit organization. Now, I'll add a little caveat here, which is that you can only really license your intellectual property, and again, mainly talking about trademarks, so your brand name, your actual branding, that type of intellectual property. You're really only going to have a market to license that if you're a really prominent brand, right? If you're a really popular nonprofit organization. So for instance, I worked at Invisible Children, the nonprofit organization that released Coney 2012, and when I worked there, we received a lot of requests to license the trademark and some of the intellectual property of the brand of Invisible Children because of how prominent and how much notoriety that brand had received, whether for good or bad. But those license requests were for all kinds of things: merchandise, textbooks, people making products on Etsy and things like that. And that is something that nonprofit, Invisible Children, and any nonprofit with a popular enough brand can charge for the license. And so that's actual revenue that would go to funding your charitable programs and your campaigns that you won't be taxed on. Because remember, with a nonprofit organization, if you do certain things to raise money that isn't just donations from the public and is a little bit like a for-profit way of making money, most likely that nonprofit's going to be taxed on that. It's called Unrelated Business Income Tax, or UBIT, and licenses of intellectual property do not trigger UBIT. So it's an awesome way to do something that is almost like a for-profit mechanism to make some revenue to fund your programs and not be taxed on it like you would if you just did a for-profit type thing, like just sold goods on Shopify. You're probably going to get UBIT on that, but licensing your brand, no UBIT. So let's talk a little bit more about what that looks like, right? When you license out your trademark and your brand, essentially what you do is you have an agreement in place that lays out, this is the brand, these are the trademarks, you can use them for X, Y, and Z purpose, and you pay this much for the permission to use that branding. And this is going to be something that you could have a monthly fee, you could have royalties that you get from the sale of goods that have the branding on it from that licensee, you could have an annual payment for that license, whatever you negotiate with whoever the licensee is, whoever's receiving the permission to use that brand. And so it can be a lot, it can be a little, but at the end of the day with a nonprofit, any extra revenue to fund your programming is good, right?